So we are Achtung, autobhan from Germany, and we're based in Cologne at the Rhine. And currently we are 4 people. We're all the founders, and we met all when we were studying game design at the Cologne Game Lab. But for the production of the first game, we want to grow to 8, and we already have worked with up to 8 people during the production of the prototype of that game. We're making historical social realistic games that are fun first for players who love to engage with cultural in a playful way. So basically it means like we're focusing on historical games, but we don't want to put, you know, educating messages in the front, but rather, you know, engaging playful gameplay. And through that we want to, you know, like make like historical periods that maybe are not that much talked about more accessible. So in Germany, I mean, I can only talk more from the indie perspective because that's where I mainly work, that and web games. So these are the 2 fields I know. And in general, it's very young. We have a lot of small indie studios with a lot of potential. When it comes to more the established stuff, which I know from, you know, like talking to them, then we have a bigger AA sector, so like mid-sized studios that are quite established. And we have a lot of web game companies, which I think still comes from like the early 2000s, where people were doing a lot of Flash games, and the free-to-play market then emerged out of this in the late 2000s. So a lot of these companies are there and still big, and now they transitioned to HTML5 companies. And there also are a few AAA studios, but that's definitely compared to other countries, it's not that big. And I guess if there's a challenge for the industry, then especially for the indies, it's always like everywhere, but it's financing. We have nice public funding schemes, but in general, like yeah, they often, while they're great and they help, it's always hard to kind of like pair them up with, you know, to get like full funding for games and connection to people. So like that's, I think, the biggest challenge. But in general, we have a very dedicated and young scene, which I think is great.
So imagine you're a young woman visiting a protest in 1968 in West Berlin, and things escalate badly. And your friend Jonas, he dies by the hand of a violent policeman. And you manage to escape by jumping into a cab with this very weird driver, and he drops you off at the start of the same day. So what do you do now? You get a chance to do it all over. And this is our game, Maniacs. It's an action adventure for PC. And it gives players the chance to explore West Berlin in the 60s and dive into the currents that led to this escalation by talking to the police, the protesters and extremists, and influence events and experiment with a chain of events to really get to know this historical period. You know, you're trying to save Jonas, but you have to know everything that's happened there historically to realize how to influence him. And you will do that by, again, exploring the city, talking to people, finding out who they are, but also you can, for example, throw bottles at somebody to distract them or attack them. You can run, you can hide, and essentially do everything in your power to influence the chain of events. That's the game.